as much as I think we like to believe we're individuals, bottom line is we're still looking for a way to fit in with the mainstream. And I don't think investing is too much different.
So do you fall in line with those guys that say the way to make money is to act contrary to the crowd?
Um, Partially. Honestly, I think most of the time I find myself acting um, when I think contrary to myself. If my if my initial reaction is like, "Oh, that sounds like a good idea," then that's when I stop and think twice about it.
And what usually happens then?
Well, the good news is when I stop and think twice about a trade, a purchase, whatever, it gives me just that much more time to think it through. What I like to believe rationally,
Okay.
um, collect a little more information. Um, but I know when I first started investing, I think I did more investing on emotion than I did anything, and I racked up, quite a bit of trading fees in the process. And when I thought, gosh, we did okay, we came out ahead on several of these stocks, did I finally go, yeah, we made a little bit of money, but gosh, the cost in the time that it took to do all that, research information, and then the actual cost of making the trades pretty much ate away at everything I thought I had gained.
Really? Who are you trading through?
At the time, I was trading through Vanguard, and each trade was $25 a pop.
Really? That's not
I
insignificant.
No, it adds up rather quick. Since then, since then, once you reach a certain threshold, uh, that cost drops, but not more than 10%. But I don't know. I started looking around. I ended up using Share Builder instead for um, market trades, if you will, which were much cheaper. But I still kept my Vanguard account for my IRAs. They
Sure.
seemed a little bit cheaper for. I think they reward you for the long-term buy and hold approach as opposed to being a trader.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Think about their interest. Of course they do. They want your money. They want you to keep it there, and they're good at it.
Sure.
Schwab is like 750 a trade, which changed. I was disturbed in the book to have
Yeah,
them.
Scott trades 7. Forget what E-Trade's charging right now.
They're both a little less than Schwab, but I'd sort of trust Schwab. Uh, I've been around them a long time. What was I going to say? Um, yeah, I was disturbed when the book talked about $200 trading fees, $200 transaction fees. I thought that is distinctly dating the book. It may have been that once upon a time, but it sure hasn't been
Yeah.
that in my memory. And mostly we traded in transaction fee free mutual funds, and for a long time they were a pretty good deal. And Schwab got wise and started charging more for them. But for a long time they were really an inexpensive way of managing money. And even now, Schwab funds are pretty inexpensive. If you buy the ones that are sponsored by Schwab. Anyway, I'm off subject here, but uh, just curious about people's experiences with the herd behavior concept, and I don't think transaction fees are the barrier that the book described them as being. Any thoughts on that?
Well, even with the professional, mutual fund manager, they do have that too. I remember, like beginning of this year, when the talk, probably you remember, everyone come to our firm and talking about the interest rate is going up. So everyone, every single firm, talk to me and say we have to buy floating rate, and it's like it's across the whoever I'm talking to or I was talking to is just told me the same story, and now is
Really?
yes. So I can see it with the even with the mutual fund with the professional, we still have the same kind of talk to each other and just follow the same advice.
So they're acting like herds.
I think so.
Known to happen. This is an interesting subject to me, and there's a fellow here in Denver who's actually been a professor at the University of Denver for a very long time. He retired this year. And another fellow who's running icon funds, Tom, the Greek name for the first set. Old guy, all about 65. At any rate, they're developing systems for analyzing approaches of mutual fund managers that escape to see how much the mutual fund manager can escape the gravity of a herd mentality. That they don't give points to people who follow the herd, no matter how well their funds do. They give funds to people or points to people who have good returns, but do it on their skills and their approaches to the market. Thoughts?
How would they measure something like that?
They've developed some pretty ferocious metrics on how to do that. I mean, it's complicated, as the saying goes. And we can even doubt that they're really successful. But I think you can see from reading these two chapters, 9 and 10, that psychologists haven't exactly, and the behavioral finance people haven't really settled in on ways to do the measuring. I mean, I was sort of shocked by these two chapters, to be honest with you. First of all, I've never heard of an awful lot of the words, and I've been in the investing world for nearly 30 years, and I've never heard a lot of these terms, so I found that curious. And I have heard of the phenomena, but I've not heard of the terms. But I just thought there's an awful lot of speculation, an awful lot of very, very soft thinking, an awful lot of speculation